we're seeing a new America on the horizon.
Today I'm going to make that popular Italian dish, pizza pie.
Okay, when I first heard about them, I was aware that I had seen this guy Epstein photographed with Trump at various parties, and they're like they look like they're good buddies. And then when I heard that the guy had an island of his own, and that was just from hearing it and seeing it online.
There is some other news we're following tonight. Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein is expected to appear in federal court in Lower Manhattan tomorrow following new charges related to alleged sex crimes involving minors.
In a way, I wasn't surprised because I know that a lot of people who are, mostly it's men, who have certain twists and turns in their lack of character, will gravitate toward a lot of fantasy play, but most people don't have. If the people don't have the money to make those fantasies come true, it's sort of like a sexual Disneyland for them.
This will be the first of many films that will give a perspective on Donald Trump that has never been seen before. Something fresh. This is a horror documentary that explores the cult of Donald Trump and the Epstein files, along with the violence that Trump inspires. We will start with the Epstein files.
A leather-bound album created for Epstein's 50th birthday in 2003 contained a bawdy note and drawing allegedly signed by Trump. Trump has denied the authenticity of this document and sued media outlets for linking him to it.
I need to come out here today and tell my co-workers, I'm like, look, I'm bunking off today to go to D.C. to stand with 1,000 of my friends or so and just say, this sucks and we got to do something about it.
Flight manifest records confirm that Trump flew on Epstein's private jet at least 7 times between 1999 and 1997.
The Trumpstein files need to come out. And so when I record my TikTok later at the protest, I'll be sure and mention that we're not completely distracted, although kudos for the big try with Greenland.
Furthermore, the documents provide details regarding a 14-year-old girl who was allegedly taken to Mar-a-Lago in 1994. According to a court document in the release, Epstein introduced the girl to Trump, playfully elbowing him, asking, "This is a good one, right?" To which Trump reportedly smiled and nodded.
A federal judge dismissed a defamation lawsuit filed by President Donald Trump against the Wall Street Journal publisher regarding an article about an alleged birthday letter sent to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
These records suggest a level of social intimacy and shared environments that exceed Trump's later descriptions of Epstein as merely a neighbor or a creep he barely knew.
And breaking news involving a woman who claims Donald Trump raped her when she was 13.
Katie Johnson. I saw the whole video of Katie Johnson's deposition.
I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. At first, I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first or second, first party, and I didn't think that was my responsibility. Before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, "You need to use a glove." And the recruiter ran over and handed me a glove and said, "No one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove." Gave him a hand job, and then immediately after, he had an orgasm, he left, and I didn't see him again at that party.
She was a credible witness, and everything she said was verified by the FBI, but she disappeared. They've been threatened. Some of them have been unalived already because they came forward.
Well, Katie Johnson, the point about Katie Johnson is that her story was silenced.
Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's, was responsible for throwing the sex parties.
At 4 different parties, she was assaulted. Trump and Epstein were both there.
Came to New York trying to be a model. In my travels, I met a girl named Tiffany there who was very interested in me and said that she knew a lot of people that were higher ups and that it would be no problem. I would just basically have to come model at a couple of events and meet some people. Of course I went, that sounded like no big deal. She was recruiting the girls to come to these parties. Most of them were, my age. There was, maybe a couple girls that were maybe 14 or 15. Jeffrey Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. When he interviewed me, he asked me to get down to my bra, just my panties, and I thought that was weird, but modeling, maybe it was something about my figure. He asked that I give him a massage. And then he asked me my age. He asked me, and I told him, told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there, and he basically said, "Well, you'll do. I'm sure that you'll fit pretty nicely here." And then he tried to slip himself inside of me, and I pushed him away. I told him that I wasn't interested in that. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was so young, and I was also a virgin.
And a man who was standing right next to me, who weighed about 350 pounds and wasn't a very attractive guy, said to me, "It could be worse, Donald. I've been in Aspen for 20 years and I've never had a date." And I'll never forget the statement.
Donald Trump knew that I was 13 because the first night that I was there, Tiffany actually suggested that she had a whole bunch of different wigs, and I expressed interest in them. I always told her that I would love to walk around with blue hair, and so I tried some on, and there was a blonde wig that she said that looked great on me. So I wore that wig, and Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter, and she said, "Well, she's 13 as well." We went to the party that I was basically interviewing for, and Jeffrey Epstein was the one that was running the party. He had a quick meeting with everyone that was employed there, and then he had a private interview with me. So it was another massage, and it was basically like, it wasn't sex, but there was penetration, and I told him that I didn't want that, but he kind of got a little irritated. So I don't know, there was something about him. I guess I kind of held him, I held a lot of resentment towards him. Second time that I saw Mr. Trump, same scenario. He was onlooking at an orgy, and Tiffany came over to me and said that Donald Trump had requested that I perform oral sex on him, and I'd never done something like that with anybody, so I was a little nervous. So I walked up to him, and he was sitting there very proud, and I just kind of moved in that direction, and he kind of slapped me away and said, "What are you doing? You need to put a condom on," like I was some dirty filth or something without a condom. apologized, and then I performed oral sex on him. And once again, once he was done, he hopped up, and that's the last I saw of him at that party. Donald Trump was very racist. He said a lot of racist things. Like there was a lot of comments towards Mr. Epstein about being Jewish, and called him a Jew bastard. Said that he was cheap, and there was some words I didn't even understand. Something about the shape of his penis being directly related to his mole, or I'm not too familiar with the Jewish traditions, so, but I'm pretty sure that whatever he was saying wasn't very nice. Also referred to people of Hispanic or Hispanic name, they called them spics. That was around the first time that the World Trade Center had gotten the bomb in the 90s. And he was talking about the towel heads and how we would just be better off if we didn't let him in, or basically got rid of every single one that was already here. It made me really uncomfortable, really, really uncomfortable. He also loved to call black people niggers, and Arabic people he called sand niggers. The only time that he tried to give me some money was our last encounter together, where he acted out a rape fantasy. I was forced to give that money back because Jeffrey Epstein paid us after the party. It was a rape fantasy to him, but I wasn't playing. But he had a fantasy where he walked in on his maids. It was basically he's walking in, his two maids. I was one of the maids. I was the white maid. And there was a Spanish girl, Maria, who was the Hispanic maid. And we were making out, and he walks in and he gets really angry and threatens to call immigration on Maria if she doesn't come over and make things right and give him a blowjob. While she is over there giving him a blowjob, I am just trying to, I'm supposed to look scared, like, oh no, and cleaning up things and pretending like I'm trying to go back to my job as a maid. He slapped her away and said, what are you doing? You need to put a condom on, and she's trying to, I'm so sorry, and he's like, you can't even understand what you're saying, speak English, And then he's like, you know what, you don't know what you're doing, have her come over and show you how it's done. And had to go over there, or else he was going to call immigration on Maria. I didn't know if it was true or not, but I felt that, he said that if I didn't show her how to perform oral sex on him, he was going to call immigration on her and then get rid of us both. Anything that was in relation to him getting off or being satisfied or happy had to do with him being in power, but extreme power. It was always intimidating when he was like that. It was always, you didn't really know if it was true or, like if you refused to play along, would he really call immigration on Maria? Would he really get rid of us both? And I didn't even want to know what that meant. It wasn't a game. And actually the maid fantasy, I didn't have a blonde wig on. I was trying to stay away from blonde wigs at the time. But he actually told Tiffany that that's what he wanted me to wear. I had it on and he'd see me, he would say, oh man, you look, and it wasn't like oh, you remind me of my daughter. It was this sick, evil, like, you remind me of my daughter. It was just this weird pleasure, sick smile. Like I don't even want to know what he was thinking about. I could imagine what he was thinking about. He approached me about a rape scene that was supposed to be played out, and I didn't like the sound of that at all. But Tiffany assured me that it wasn't going to be if it was anything I wasn't comfortable with. He came in and I was basically tied to a bed with pantyhose, and I tried to say something, and it was like, you just, shut up, shut up, bitch. It was basically like he was being really, really rough, and I understand. I I mean, it just didn't seem like a fantasy. And I started to get scared, and he was, basically like ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out. I told him that I didn't want to do this. I screamed over for Tiffany. She was like, Mr. Trump, she's only, this is scaring her. And he's like, oh, you shut up too. He just turned into this animal. It was like a completely different person. Like everyone in the room was scared of him. I couldn't do anything about it. He ripped off all my clothes, and he started to basically have sex with me, and I was screaming because I'd never had sex before. It was my first time, and Tiffany was yelling at him too. She was saying that I was a virgin, and he told us to just shut the fuck up, and just basically took my virginity while I was crying and telling him to stop, and that's basically begging for him to just stop.
I have no doubt in my mind that she told the truth. That's a quote from Cheney Mason, the lawyer for the Jane Doe who accused President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of rape in 2016, right before the general election. She said she was 13 years old, and it was in 1994 at Epstein's house.
Just before she was scheduled to provide her statement regarding her testimony that was about to be given, she abruptly canceled because she received death threats to her and her loved ones, and to the extent of my knowledge is still well, but in hiding.
I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Jane Doe has received numerous threats today, as have all the Trump accusers that I have represented.
According to the document, Trump repeatedly mentioned the name Jeffrey and made comments about abusing some girl.
Going after Minneapolis, saying he's going to take Greenland, taking the president of Venezuela and possibly threatening to bomb Iran to take attention away. Could that be it? You see a sensitivity at the Dearborn auto plant when a worker yelled, pedophile protector, and he turned around and gave him the finger and mouthed the words, F you, but said the curse.
When hate can bring people together, people like Trump can influence someone to do anything.
As long as there are people with that kind of wealth and power, there will continue to be atrocities like we have seen in the Epstein files.
The Justice Department released a batch of previously unreleased documents from the Epstein files that include notes from FBI interviews with a woman who says she was assaulted by President Trump as a minor.
The release of approximately 3.5 million pages of documents by the Department of Justice in early 2026, following the enactment of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, has provided an unprecedented look into the intersection of Donald Trump's social circle and the criminal enterprise of Jeffrey Epstein.
In interviews with the FBI, the woman alleged she was assaulted by Mr. Trump in the 1980s and that she was also a victim of Epstein's. The documents were released after multiple news outlets discovered they were missing from the initial mass release of files.
Ghislaine Maxwell is now serving a 20-year prison sentence for her role in the sex trafficking ring. House Democrats allege she has received preferential treatment at her federal prison and that she is appealing to President Trump to commute her sentence.
While Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing and maintained that he severed ties with Epstein in the mid-2000s, the newly made public materials, comprised of Federal Bureau of Investigation interview summaries, internal memos, and flight manifests, detail a series of specific allegations and historical interactions that challenge previously public narratives.
In an April 2011 message that appears to be sent to his convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein wrote, quote, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him." The victim's name was redacted. In another message, apparently sent to journalist Michael Wolff in January 2019, Epstein wrote about Trump, quote, "Of course he knew about the girls," as he asked Ghislaine to stop.
By Biographical accounts and investigative journalism have long established that Trump and Epstein were part of the same elite social circles in New York and Palm Beach. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump famously described Epstein as a terrific guy who liked beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Their relationship was rocky, with allegations of fallouts and reconnects, a lot like Trump's other friends and allies. Additionally, the files contain a 2021 interview with Virginia Giuffre, a prominent Epstein survivor. While partially redacted, the memo indicates Giuffre discussed her recruitment from Trump's Mar-a-Lago club as a teenager and her subsequent abuse by Epstein.
Did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre? I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know.
She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking. The New York Post says that Giuffre took legal action against billionaire financier Epstein in 2015, alleging that she was sex trafficked at age 16 after his ex-lover and convicted madam, Ghislaine Maxwell, recruited her from her job as a locker room attendant at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort.
It's impossible. And then for them to say that she committed suicide, there's no way that she did. Somebody got to her.
Documents are known as 302 files. They're summaries of 3 interviews the FBI conducted with this accuser, in which she alleges that Epstein brought her to meet Trump sometime between when she was age 13 and 15. She details in very graphic terms Trump's alleged sexual assault against her and how she fought back. Independent journalist Roger Sollenberger has been following this closely, and he noted that there are at least 37 pages still missing. That includes notes that informed these summaries, as well as internal communication that would memorialize how the situation with the accuser was resolved. The DOJ also says that the unredacted versions of the documents will be available for members of Congress to review, but reporters have noted that even still, there are additional documents that remain missing.
He's covering up.
We have looked further into the president's past, where there are more allegations about the way he behaved towards women. Much of it centers on his hometown in the late 80s and 90s. We met someone who was there. He doesn't want to be identified. He says Donald Trump hosted and attended parties after modeling events. The models were young. The men were much older.
There was a lot of cocaine around. There was a lot of alcohol. They were all older men. These were guys who could easily be their fathers 2 times over. You had men in their 50s, 60s on up. It was kind of like a feeding frenzy. The girls were there as consumables. Let's just call it that.
And when you say consumed, do you mean that the men were having sex with them?
Yes, that's the whole point of it. They were there to get laid.
We've spoken to a number of sources who saw Donald Trump at the parties. Most paint a similar picture.
Just describe to us the way Donald Trump behaved at these parties.
I mean, this guy it was like a predator in action. We do know that he was having sex with them.
How do you know that?
Because the next day or days after we would hear about it, he'd brag about it to his friends, and it would get around that he scored, maybe 1 or 2 girls at a time, which is what he loved to do.
But what's most shocking is the age of some of the models at the parties.
There was girls, I would say 14, 15 years old from Europe, the European girls.
They were 14 or 15?
There were girls that were 14, 15 years old, for sure. I mean, I didn't run up and say, how old are you? But they looked younger than I was, and I was 17. You just knew because of what they were wearing and how they would hold themselves.
And these girls were all anywhere from 14, 15, 16 years old. There was very few girls above the age of 19 there.
And you saw Donald Trump with these girls who were that young, 15, 16?
Absolutely. I mean, they're standing around with them, ogling them.
It was just disgusting. I felt like I was in the presence of a shark we're getting ready to roll his eyes back in his head and bite me. You know, that's how I felt. It was just like, get the hell out of here.
Trafficked. I was groomed. I was threatened by Jeffrey and Ghislaine. They threatened me. They threatened to kill my family. Jeffrey's Island, it was designed for rape and trafficking. And once you're there, you can't get out.
One of the victims of Epstein alleged a forced threesome that included attorney Dershowitz. Newly unsealed court documents made public reveal that a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking testified that she was forced to have a threesome with Alan Dershowitz and another unnamed woman. The woman, Sarah Ransom, was then compelled by lawyers for Epstein's accomplice, convicted sex trafficker, Miss Maxwell, remember her, to answer a series of invasive questions about the body and the genitals of Mr. Dershowitz.
Sarah Ransom, a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking ring, testified that a friend in Epstein's circle, identified as Jen, confided in her about a friendship, quote-unquote, with Trump. According to the deposition, Trump kept on about how he liked her pert nipples and allegedly engaged in physical conduct until they were raw, red, and swollen.
Trump has a nipple torture kink, which got out there, which the team was meeting in the Situation Room to figure out how to cover that up.
On July 15th, Trump was asked why his administration has not released as many files as promised.
These files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden,
This is false. The files are real. The Justice Department has said there's over 300 gigabytes of records and other evidence related to its investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. Many of those documents have already been released. Secondly, those investigations did not occur under Comey, Biden, or Obama. The FBI first investigated Jeffrey Epstein in 2006 and reached a plea deal with him a year later. The president then was George W. Bush.
An anonymous caller reported to the federal authorities that Trump held parties where Jeffrey Epstein would bring children. The caller alleged that she and others were taken into private rooms and forced to perform oral sex on Trump.
Sarah Ransom opens up about her experiences with sexual assault and surviving Jeffrey Epstein.
The reason why I decided to write the book is because I feel that you're only as sick as your secrets. And for so many years, I've been silenced. Jeffrey made it very clear that if I ever told anyone, went to the authorities, that he would kill me and my family. And my trauma was almost like a cancer inside my body. It just grew and grew and grew and grew. But I want survivors to stand in their truth, to not feel that they're silent and not feel ashamed. I'm tired of being victim shamed. Rape is rape, and no means no. No one deserves to be raped, and that's why I've spoken my truth. This was a really sophisticated sex trafficking ring. It was run by a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was the enforcer, she was the chief orchestrator, but then there's these layers of women and recruiters, turning victims into predators. I had no one in New York, and I was a 22-year-old. I was a baby. I had just come from an abusive relationship, really abusive, and she befriended me. And that completely let my guard down. I had been told, Jeffrey was such a wonderful, kind man, that he really loves helping young, struggling, talented people. And then it was, let's go for a girls' weekend. Let's go to the island, and we're gonna have so much fun. I just wanted to make a friend. There was never any question that this guy was gonna rape me for months on end. When you're approached by another woman, you don't expect that they're out there to be paid for you to be raped. From the very first time that I was tricked into going to the island, I had my phone taken away, my passport taken away. And very early on, Jeffrey made it very clear that if I went anywhere, I was gonna get hurt. And that was then again reinforced by Ghislaine. She was a mastermind at grooming. One of the things that she used to do was she forced me into Jeffrey's room where I was brutally raped. He made me watch video footage of him interacting with some of the most powerful, influential people in the world. And Ghislaine, as soon as she broke you, she would almost be mother-like and caring. And that was effectively done to build a trauma bond. So it was like this constant cycle. It's actually called intermittent reinforcement. It's such a sophisticated grooming technique. You must understand, you're stuck on an island. You've been raped 3 times a day. You're like a hungry dog that's starving for any compassion. What chance do you have?
Newly released DOJ documents tied to the Jeffrey Epstein case are raising serious questions and renewed controversy. One of the most disturbing claims comes from an unnamed woman who contacted the FBI in 2020.
One woman claims she was 13 years old and pregnant in 1984 when she was trafficked by high-profile individuals. She alleged that Trump regularly paid for her to be forced into performing oral sex acts. These claims were made public in late 2025 and early 2026, following the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
In her statement, she says that in 1984, when she was just 13 years old, she was sex trafficked by her uncle and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. According to the document, the woman claims she became pregnant during this abuse and later gave birth to a baby girl. She alleges that her newborn child was murdered by her uncle and that the body was dumped into Lake Michigan.
The allegations regarding a 13-year-old girl being impregnated by Donald Trump and the subsequent murder of a child in Lake Michigan stem from a specific FBI tip submitted in 2020.
The child that was disposed of in Lake Michigan, that was Donald Trump's. Why was Donald Trump present while the baby was being disposed of?
The Justice Department releasing thousands of pages on the Epstein files, including letters, transcripts, and images. A lawsuit filed in New York in May 2020 accuses Epstein and convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell of years of abuse. The victim, named Jane Doe, claims she met the two at Interlochen Arts Camp in 1994, an area about 20 minutes southwest of Traverse City. The lawsuit outlines Epstein and Maxwell would take her to movies and shopping and eventually started making sexual references. When she was 14, she visited Mar-a-Lago where she was introduced to Donald Trump. Records allege Epstein elbowed Trump and asked him in reference to the girl, "This is a good one, right?" Abuse continued to escalate over the next few years. The girl eventually moved to New York. When she was 17, she alleged Epstein raped her, and on multiple occasions after that. Epstein's ties to Interlochen was highlighted in testimony from the group's vice president of finance. This letter from the group to Epstein thanked him for his $200,000 donation. It was money that went towards building a 2-bedroom home known as the Green Lake Lodge, formerly known as the Epstein Scholarship Lodge.
In the same FBI record, the woman claims that U.S. President Donald Trump also sexually abused her multiple times by paying money and was present at the time of her baby's murder. There is no public record showing that the FBI verified or investigated this allegation. The woman's name and identifying details were redacted by the Department of Justice to protect her identity. The woman told the FBI that she had previously spoken with a detective she believed was part of a New York-based FBI sex trafficking task force. She said the call came from a 212 area code and lasted about 20 to 30 minutes. During that conversation, she claimed she described the abuse and named other powerful individuals she said were involved. Another document released by the DOJ has added to the controversy. An FBI case file dated October 2020 includes another allegation of rape involving Donald Trump. The source of the allegation is not identified and key details are redacted. That file references a limousine driver who reportedly described a troubling phone call while driving Trump to an airport in 1995. According to the document, Trump repeatedly mentioned the name Jeffrey and made comments about abusing some girl. The file also includes a statement in which an unnamed person allegedly said that Trump and Jeffrey Epstein raped her together. A new release of Epstein-related documents is reigniting one of the most sensitive and explosive allegations surrounding President Donald Trump. Buried inside the latest trove of files is an FBI report from October 2020, detailing a phone call to the National Threat Operations Center just days before the presidential election. According to the report, a man told federal authorities that a woman he knew accused Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of raping her. The caller said he had met Trump years earlier while working as a limousine driver. When Trump's name came up in a private conversation, the woman, he claimed, suddenly went silent, then made the allegation. Donald J. Trump had raped me along with Jeffrey Epstein, the FBI report quotes her as saying. When urged to contact police, the woman allegedly responded with chilling words, "I can't, they will kill me." The FBI report redacts all names. There is no complaint, no charges, and no corroborating evidence presented. The Justice Department is now moving forcefully to shut the claim down, and just within hours of the release, EFTA EA 0020518, the FBI case file that includes accusation of rape involving Trump, was removed by the DOJ. Trump has denied all wrongdoing and has never been charged with any crime related to Jeffrey Epstein. But the newly released files also include internal Justice Department emails that are raising fresh questions. An assistant U.S. attorney wrote in 2020 that newly obtained flight records showed Trump flew on Epstein's private jet more times than previously known. The email states Trump was listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996. The Justice Department says the massive document release, nearly 30,000 pages across more than 11,000 files, reflects a commitment to transparency while maintaining protections for Epstein's victims. Court records, emails, photos, videos, internal communications, a flood of data, and with it, renewed scrutiny. But the DOJ's position is clear. The rape allegations cited in the FBI report is false, unsubstantiated, and unsupported by evidence. What remains is a familiar tension between accusation and proof, transparency and consequence, as the Epstein files continue to cast long shadows over powerful names.
On the next episode of A Sign of the Times.
Flames rise in Tehran as a horned figure burns in the heart of revolution rallies.
We explore the cult of Donald Trump and the evil within his movement.
Why were statues of the ancient deity Baal set alight across Iran?
There are 2 types of people, or humans right now. Those who watch and read MSM and have zero fucking clue what's going on in the world at all. And then there are those of us who are watching this sick, dystopian, silent, technocratic, spiritual war unfold, thinking how the fuck are me and my kids gonna survive all this bullshit into the next decade and beyond.
Iranian state-organized rallies marking the anniversary of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution took an unusual turn as demonstrators in several cities set fire to large statues depicting a horned, bull-headed figure identified by organizers as Baal, an ancient deity referenced in biblical and Islamic tradition.
Baal was one of the most powerful and widely worshipped deities in the ancient Canaanite and Phoenician pantheon. His temples stood at the heart of ancient cities, where priests and kings sought his favor through elaborate rituals, including burnt offerings, grand festivals, and, at times, human sacrifices. The most controversial of these rites was the sacrifice of children, a practice recorded in biblical texts and described by Greek and Roman historians as a desperate plea for divine intervention during times of war, famine, or natural disaster.
Online speculation linked Epstein to ancient deities such as Baal or Moloch, figures that in some traditions are associated with child sacrifice.
Billions of pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, providing more information on the convicted sex offender's crimes. Among the files, claims bodies are buried near Epstein's Zorro Ranch in Santa Fe County.
And the DOJ's failure to follow through on these cases is atrocious.
In some instances, the displays included additional imagery, such as the number 666.
This is epic shit we're dealing with. The CIA, the FBI, all the letters are in bed with the mob.
Burning as a symbolic act intended to draw attention to alleged corruption in Western political and financial systems.
In some of these statues that they actually burned down in the different cities across Iran, they also put pictures of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and the Israeli flag.
Is Donald Trump the Antichrist, or is he something more? We continue to explore an apocalyptic future, the evil that comes with it. When billionaires continue to suck the life out of America, poor become poorer, and violence becomes inevitable. As the violence escalates, those inspired by Trump's words take up a mantle they feel obligated to. This leads to chaos, death, and the destruction of families. The more violence in America, the more evil in America. We are seeing a new America on the horizon, one where America stands up against the threat of Donald Trump and his regime.